Trait 1. They regulate emotions instead of ignoring them. Pressure doesn't magically erase emotion. Stress doesn't politely knock and leave people unaffected. The difference is never about feeling less. It's about handling what's already there. People who stay calm when everything falls apart aren't emotionally distant or numb. In fact, they often feel things more intensely than others. Anger shows up, fear creeps in, stress builds fast. But instead of reacting instantly, there's a pause, a small but powerful gap between feeling and response. That pause changes everything. Psychology refers to this as emotional regulation. It's not suppression. It's not pretending everything is fine. It's the ability to experience emotion without letting it take control of behavior. The emotional brain reacts quickly, but the thinking brain steps in when there's space. Calm individuals have trained themselves, sometimes without realizing it, to create that space. In real-life situations, this looks simple but powerful. A harsh comment doesn't immediately trigger a harsh reply. A stressful situation doesn't lead to panic-driven decisions. Instead, there's a moment where the emotion is noticed, processed, and then handled. This skill doesn't come from genetics or luck. It's learned. Over time, the brain becomes better at pausing, better at choosing responses instead of defaulting to reactions. And that's where calmness starts to build. Many people assume calm individuals just don't care enough. That's not true. They care deeply. They just don't let that care turn into chaos. They've learned that reacting instantly often makes situations worse, not better. The interesting part is how subtle this skill is. It's not loud or dramatic. There's no visible struggle most of the time. From the outside, it looks effortless. But internally, there's awareness. There's control. There's a decision being made not to let emotion take the lead. And that's what makes this trait rare. Trait 2. They don't take everything personally. Not every negative situation is about the person experiencing it. That idea sounds simple, but in reality, most people struggle with it. When something goes wrong, the natural reaction is to internalize it. A rude comment feels like a personal attack. Someone's bad mood feels like it must be connected. A mistake turns into self-blame. This pattern creates emotional spikes that quickly spiral. Calm individuals operate differently. They understand that people act based on their own stress, pressure, and internal struggles. A short response might come from exhaustion. A harsh tone might come from frustration, unrelated to the situation at hand. Not every reaction from others is a reflection of something personal. This perspective reduces emotional intensity almost instantly. Cognitive psychology describes this as a low personalization. Instead of assuming everything is about them, calm individuals create distance between external events and internal identity. That distance protects emotional stability. It doesn't mean ignoring feedback or refusing responsibility. It simply means not jumping to conclusions that amplify stress unnecessarily. For example, if someone reacts negatively, the calm response isn't immediate self-blame or defensiveness. There's curiosity instead. There's a recognition that the situation might have layers that aren't immediately visible. This mindset prevents emotional overload. Without personalization, situations stay smaller. They don't expand into something bigger than they actually are. And when situations stay manageable, reactions stay controlled. This is one of the quiet reasons why calm people seem unshaken. It's not that life is easier for them. It's that they don't carry extra weight that doesn't belong to them. Trait 3. They accept uncertainty. Uncertainty makes most people uncomfortable. The need for clarity, control, and predictability is strong. When things don't make sense, stress rises quickly. But calm individuals don't fight uncertainty the same way. Instead of needing every answer immediately, they allow situations to unfold. There's an understanding that not everything can be solved or explained in the moment, and more importantly, not everything needs to be. Psychological research shows that tolerance for uncertainty is directly linked to lower anxiety. When someone can exist without needing constant clarity, emotional stability increases. This doesn't mean ignoring problems. It means focusing only on what can actually be controlled. When everything feels like it's falling apart, uncertainty is unavoidable. Plans change, outcomes shift, information is incomplete. Trying to control all of it creates pressure that quickly becomes overwhelming. Calm individuals step back from that pressure. They recognize the difference between what can be influenced and what cannot. Energy goes toward action where it matters, not toward worrying about things that are outside of control. This creates a sense of groundedness. Instead of being pulled in multiple directions by fear of the unknown, there's a steady focus on the present moment. Decisions become clearer, actions become more intentional, and most importantly, stress doesn't spiral out of control. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means adapting. It means understanding that uncertainty is part of every challenging situation, not something that can always be eliminated. That mindset creates resilience in moments where most people feel lost. Trait 4. They think before reacting. Fast reactions feel natural, especially under pressure. The brain is wired to respond quickly to perceived threats or stress, but speed doesn't always lead to the best outcomes. Calm individuals slow things down, not in an obvious or exaggerated way, but just enough to create space between stimulus and response. That small delay changes how the brain processes the situation. Neuroscience shows that slowing down reactions reduces stress hormones and prevents emotional overload. When there's even a brief pause, the thinking part of the brain has time to engage. And when thinking takes the lead, reactions become choices. Instead of impulsive responses, there's intention. Instead of escalating situations, there's control. This is why calm people often appear composed even in chaotic moments. They're not rushing to respond. In conversations, this might look like taking a moment before speaking. In stressful situations, it might mean observing before acting. That delay isn't hesitation, it's control. It prevents regret. Impulsive reactions often lead to outcomes that make situations worse. Words get said that can't be taken back. Decisions get made that create bigger problems. Calm individuals avoid this pattern by simply not reacting instantly. This doesn't slow them down in a negative way. It actually makes them more effective. Because when reactions are thoughtful, they're also more accurate. They address the situation instead of adding to it. And over time, this habit builds a reputation. People start to trust those who don't react impulsively. They become the ones others turn to when things get chaotic. What makes this even more powerful is how that pause begins to reshape decision-making over time. It's no longer just about avoiding mistakes in the moment. It's about building a consistent pattern of clarity. When reactions are slowed down repeatedly, the brain starts to favor thoughtful processing by default. This creates a natural gap where awareness steps in before emotion takes over. There's also a noticeable shift in how situations are interpreted. Instead of immediately labeling something as a threat or problem, there's a moment of evaluation. That evaluation often reveals that not everything is as urgent as it first appeared. As a result, unnecessary stress is filtered out early. Another key difference is how tone and communication improve. Words are chosen more carefully, which reduces misunderstandings and prevents escalation in conversations. This leads to more productive outcomes, especially in tense situations. Over time, others begin to feel more at ease around this kind of presence. There's a sense of stability that influences the environment itself. In high-pressure moments, while others may rush or panic, this steady approach creates balance. It also allows for better observation of details that might otherwise be missed. Small cues, changes, or opportunities become more visible when the mind isn't racing. There's also less emotional fatigue because energy isn't being wasted on constant reaction. Instead, it's directed toward meaningful action. Another important shift is how confidence develops. It's no longer based on reacting quickly, but on responding effectively. That confidence grows stronger with each situation handled well. Over time, this builds a level of trust, not just from others, but internally as well. Decisions feel more grounded, less rushed, and more aligned with long-term outcomes. Even in fast-moving situations, there's an ability to remain centered without feeling left behind. This balance between awareness and action is what makes the habit so valuable. It doesn't remove urgency when it's needed, but it prevents urgency from turning into chaos. And as this pattern strengthens, calm, deliberate responses start to feel just as natural as quick reactions once did. Trait 5. They've learned from past stress. Calmness rarely comes from a life that has always been easy. More often, it's built through experience, especially difficult ones. People who stay composed under pressure usually weren't always that way. There were moments in the past where stress felt overwhelming, situations that didn't go as planned, reactions that, in hindsight, could have been handled better. But instead of ignoring those experiences, they learned from them. Psychology shows that repeated exposure to stress, when handled properly, can actually strengthen emotional resilience. It's not the stress itself that creates growth, but the way it's processed afterward. Over time, patterns become clearer. There's recognition of what triggers emotional reactions. There's awareness of what makes situations escalate. And most importantly, there's an understanding of what actually helps in difficult moments. This learning doesn't happen all at once. It builds gradually. Each stressful experience becomes a reference point, a reminder that intense moments don't last forever, a lesson in what works and what doesn't. And with each repetition, the response becomes more refined. That's why calm individuals often seem steady even in unfamiliar situations. It's not because they've seen that exact situation before. It's because they've developed a framework for handling pressure in general. They've been there before, just in different forms. Instead of panicking, there's a sense of familiarity with stress itself. The intensity might still be there, but it's no longer overwhelming. It's something that can be managed. This creates confidence, not the loud or obvious kind, but a quiet certainty that things can be handled. And that confidence plays a major role in staying calm when everything feels like it's falling apart. What often goes unnoticed is how these individuals start recognizing early warning signs before stress fully takes over. Small shifts in tone, subtle tension in the body, or changes in thinking patterns become signals rather than surprises. Instead of being caught off guard, there's preparation happening in real time. They begin adjusting their response before the situation reaches its peak. This awareness creates a sense of control even in unpredictable moments. Another important shift is how failure is interpreted. Rather than seeing mistakes as proof of inability, they treat them as feedback. That mindset removes a lot of unnecessary pressure. It becomes less about avoiding errors and more about improving responses. Over time, this reduces fear around high-stakes situations. There's also a growing ability to sit with discomfort without rushing to escape it. Many people react quickly just to stop feeling uneasy, but calm individuals build tolerance for that discomfort. They don't need immediate relief, which allows better decisions to form. In addition, they become more selective with their energy. Not every problem is treated as urgent, and not every situation deserves the same level of attention. This prevents burnout and keeps their focus sharp when it actually matters. Another layer to this is perspective. With experience, situations that once felt overwhelming start to feel manageable because they're no longer unfamiliar. The mind begins to categorize stress as something temporary rather than permanent. There's also less comparison with others during difficult moments. Instead of worrying about how others are reacting, the focus stays internal and steady. That reduces external pressure significantly. Over time, patience naturally increases. There's less urgency to fix everything instantly and more willingness to let solutions develop. This patience often leads to better outcomes because decisions are not rushed. Emotional recovery also becomes faster. Even when stress hits hard, the bounce-back time shortens. That resilience builds a sense of stability that others can notice. Gradually, confidence shifts from outcome-based to process-based. It's no longer about everything going perfectly, but about handling whatever happens effectively. This shift removes a lot of anxiety tied to uncertainty. As a result, calmness becomes less of an effort and more of a default state. Not because life gets easier, but because the response system becomes stronger, more flexible, and far more reliable under pressure. Bringing it all together. When everything starts falling apart, most people focus on controlling the situation, trying to fix every problem, predict every outcome, and eliminate every uncertainty. But the people who stay calm focus somewhere else entirely. They focus on controlling their response. They regulate emotions instead of being controlled by them. They don't carry unnecessary emotional weight by taking everything personally. They accept uncertainty instead of fighting it. They slow down before reacting. They learn from past stress instead of being defined by it. And they separate what they feel from what they do. None of these traits are about perfection. They don't remove stress or eliminate difficulty. What they do is prevent those moments from turning into chaos. They create stability when everything else feels unstable. And that stability is what stands out, because when most people react, a calm person responds. When most people escalate, a calm person steadies the situation. When most people feel overwhelmed, a calm person stays grounded. It's not about being unaffected. It's about being in control. Calmness under pressure isn't something reserved for a small group of people. It's not a personality type or something that only a few are born with. It's built through awareness, practice, and experience. And while it may seem rare, every one of these traits can be developed over time. The difference starts with understanding how emotions work, how reactions form, and how small changes in behavior can completely shift outcomes. Because in the moments that matter most, the ability to stay calm isn't just helpful, it changes everything. If this breakdown gave a clearer perspective on how calm people actually think and act under pressure, consider subscribing to the channel for more psychology explained in a simple, real, and practical way. More videos like this are on the way.